mains question. So without any delay, let us get into the article discussion. Now take a look at this news article. This news article talks about a particular topic. China, in order to import the solar modules. So these are all right an answer of the initial public offering news article. The news is that India's largest solar module producer, Vari Energies, has actually decided to take up the initial public offering or the IPO route in order to pool fund to grow the solar module production sector. So this is what the article is talking about. So in this news article discussion, let us revise about this particular sector in the mains perspective. Before that, I have a mains question for you. Let me read out the question. How the Indian market against the global market is thriving for the stable solar model management or manufacturing. Justify. So you can write an answer and post it in the comment section. We will review your answer. So to answer this question, first we should know what is a solar module or a solar panel. So here you can see a solar panel. The reduced form of it is a module, and the further reduced form of it is a photovoltaic cell. This photovoltaic cell is actually made up of silicon. Silicon is actually a semiconductor. What this silicon actually does is it receives the photon light from the solar radiation, and when this cell receives the light, the silicon, it has a property of releasing electrons by absorbing these photons. So what we call as the flow of electron, it is electricity, right? This is the very simple way how a solar panel or solar module actually works. So with this basic understanding, now let us see how or what is the status of India when it comes to this solar module production. See, India has only 60 gigawatt capacity in module assembly and 80 gigawatt in cell production. So from where the remaining, it is addressed from importing cells from China. So the challenges for solar module production in India is the first thing, we are dependent on China in order to manufacture solar module. So here you might have a doubt. If silica is the major part in manufacturing a photovoltaic cell, then India can do it, right? But actually we have to undergo a particular process to convert the silica into polysilicon. So this polysilicon only will convert the photon into electricity, okay, that is electron. So in order to convert this, China has done all the initial investment that is required. It is a very high or capital intensive industry. So it has done the investment from mining silica to converting it into a module. So this initial investment is done. Apart from this, the infrastructure development, especially the assembly and the manufacturing and the production, everything is set up by this particular country. And they are also very high in research and development, and that is why India is reliant on China in order to import the solar modules. So these are all the challenges when it comes to India in order to produce a solar module in India itself. So we are dependent on import. It has to be generated with a higher manufacturing cost, and we lack advanced technology, and we don't have a financial stability, and we have very low research and development when it comes to this particular sector. Moving on, we shall see some of the initiatives taken by our Indian government. See, the first very important initiative is this production linked incentive scheme. So under this particular scheme, if you are developing or if you are producing the solar modules, nearly 24,000 crore will be provided as subsidy depending upon the amount of production of the unit. So this is what the PLI scheme is about. Secondly, basic custom duty was kept very high, like nearly 40% duty on imported solar modules and 25% of duty on imported solar cells. This has been done in order to encourage the domestic manufacturers. So this will allow the creation of the solar modules production plant instead of only maintaining the assembly plant. India has assembly plant but not production plant. So So this will encourage domestic manufacturers. Thirdly, there is an approved list of models and manufacturers, in short called as ALMM. This is a very important thing. Please note it. So under this, government will enlist certain domestic producers and certified equipments. So only they will be preferred for any government or private projects. So these are certain initiatives that has been taken by our Indian government. So when we ask what is the way forward for the particular issue, we have to increase research and development investment in this particular sector, and we have to make a lot of capital available. So for example, we saw about IPO, right? So this IPO by a leading producer in our country will also invite a lot of foreign portfolio investment, foreign direct investment, and etc. So indirectly, it will lead to the growth of the economy as well as leading to greener energy source generation. Apart from this, we have to work on domestic production of critical components like solar wafers, ingots, and polysilicons. Thirdly, we have to have a partnership for technology transfer, and we have to do a lot of collaboration with the countries in the international forums, and we have to bring in expertise and provide training and skill development to the unskilled workforce in order to build a skilled workforce. And then we have to reinforce trade diplomacy by negotiating favorable trade policies. So all these can improve solar panel manufacturing in India. So far we saw about what is a solar module, how it actually functions, what are the challenges with respect to the production in India, and how it can be rectified, and we saw certain schemes. So with these learned points, now let us move on to the next news article discussion. Now take a look at this news article written by Mr. Shashi Tharoor. As the title itself hints, this article talks about India's 21st of October 2024. We have taken articles from yesterday's newspaper as well. So without any delay, let us look into the list of articles. So in this first article, we'll be seeing about Galatia Bay. In the second article, we'll be seeing about Kala Azar. And in the third article, we'll be seeing about Quad. We'll be seeing all the articles from the prelims perspective.
Because due to the rain, we were on leave on 16th October. So we have taken articles from 16th October too. So let us see the topics for today. The first topic, how smart insulin promises to revolutionize diabetes treatment. This article is taken from the newspaper Indian Express, and that is from 19th October. And the second article, greenwashing guidelines, it is taken from the 16th October Indian Express. And the third article, Modi to visit Russia next week to take part in BRICS summit. This article is taken from today's Hindu newspaper. So without much delay, let's get into our discussion. So before moving into our discussion, there is that is today. Different scientists in Denmark, Czech, and United Kingdom. So we know that brainwashing, right? What do you mean? Environmental authority has recently, it will also decide it is moving towards green development, right? This is a transition zone. Option B, insulin therapy. Option C, only lifestyle changes. And option D, surgery. The correct answer is option B, insulin therapy. So with this, we will move to the next article. Look at this newspaper article from Indian Express, 16th October, greenwashing guidelines. We know that the world is moving towards green development, right? This is a transition zone. But certain organizations and companies will take this as an opportunity to sell their products, making false claims that they are eco-friendly and environmentally sound. But actually, it may not be. So this will distract our and environmentally sound, but actually it may not be. So this will distract our development steps towards green. At the same time, it will also disastrous for the environment. So the central government has recently introduced, that is Central Consumer Protection Authority has recently gave certain guidelines to counter the problem greenwash. So let us discuss more about this in this context. So what is greenwashing? So before moving into our definition, there is a question in UPSC 2022 prelims. They asked the definition of greenwashing. The question is, which one of the following best describes the term greenwashing? Option A, conveying a false impression that a company's products are eco-friendly and environmentally sound. Option B, non-inclusion of ecological or environmental cost in the annual financial statements of a country. Option C, ignoring the disastrous ecological consequences while undertaking infrastructure development. And option D, making mandatory provisions for environment cost in a government project or program. So for example, imagine that you are facing this question for the first time in your life, but you have no idea what is this greenwashing, and you never heard this word before. But still you can answer this question using some logic. We often hear the word brainwashing, right? What do you mean by brainwashing? Convincing someone that this thing is right. So that's what we call the brainwashing usually, but actually it may not be right. So use that logic here. Greenwashing, that is conveying a false impression that a company's products are eco-friendly and environmentally sound. So we can still answer the question using that logic. Now we will move to the real definition. Like, this is the real definition actually, but still greenwashing can be simply defined as false claims made by the companies that their products and services are environmentally sound and eco-friendly, but actually it may not be. For example, certain companies will produce biofertilizers saying that our biofertilizers are eco-friendly, therefore it will not cause soil pollution, or it will not cause poison in the food chain. But actually it will cause soil pollution, and it will also affect the food chain. So this is actually a situation of greenwashing. So now we will see what are the guidelines. The guidelines for prevention and regulation of greenwashing 2024. This is issued by the Central Consumer Protection Authority under the Ministry of Consumer Affairs. They are created these guidelines to prevent companies from misleading the consumers, claiming that their products are eco-friendly. And what is the key point of this guideline? That is, hereafter the companies which are claiming that their products are eco-friendly must provide a scientific proof that their products and services are eco-friendly. And it is applicable to manufacturers, service providers, advertisers, and endorsers who promote the environmental claim for that particular product. Now we are going to see the impact of greenwashing on consumers and environment. The first major impact on consumer is it will affect the trust of the consumer. It undermines the trust of the consumer, and it can direct the consumer spending towards business that do not actively reduce their environmental footprint. And the second impact will be environmental degradation. That is, the companies will give a kind of illusion that they are working towards sustainable development, but actually it may not. Like I said in the beginning, they may produce bioplastics, saying that this bioplastics will degrade easily and it will not create environmental pollution. But in reality, the bioplastics produced by that particular company will take years to degrade, and it can still cause pollution. Now we are going to see the consumer protection laws in country, because we are spending, so therefore we also have certain rights. The first important consumer protection law in India is the Consumer Protection Act 2019, and this legal framework will address unfair trade practices, including greenwashing and other misleading advertisements. So interesting fact that recently there was an incident that I'm not mentioning the actor's name. An actor claimed that using this soap will make your skin brighten and it will smoothen your skin. But an old man, bought this and he used that soap for many months, but he didn't experience any change. Therefore, he approached the court, saying that this advertisement is misleading. This incident actually happened in India. So that much right a consumer has in India. That means if he found that the advertisement or the product is misleading, definitely he can approach the court directly. And second one is the role of Central Consumer Protection Authority. That is, the Consumer Protection Authority under the Ministry of Consumer Affairs can impose fines, bans, and also take legal action against misleading advertisements and products. And also we have consumer awareness initiatives such as campaigns like Jago Garak Jago to educate consumers. Jago Garak Jago means wake up consumer. This is an awareness campaign raised to create awareness about the rights and privileges a consumer has in the society. So in this topic, we discussed what is greenwashing and its related aspects. So try to answer this prelims practice question. The question is, with the reference to greenwashing, consider the following statements. Statement 1, greenwashing refers to the practice of companies falsely portraying their products as environment friendly. Statement 2, the Central Consumer Protection Authority is responsible for regulating greenwashing in India. And statement 3, companies using terms like eco-friendly or sustainable in advertisements must provide scientific evidence to support their claims under Indian law. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? Option A, 1 and 2 only, option B, 2 and 3 only, and option C, 1 and 3 only, and option D, 1, 2 and 3. The correct answer is option D, 1, 2 and 3. So with this, we will move to the next article. Look at this newspaper article taken from
test, you can enroll. And what are the advantages of this UBI policy? And in this second editorial, we will discuss about the section 6A of the citizen illegal migration. So next one, take a look at this editorial which is regarding citizens to meet the basic. Now we will see what are the challenges of this. Now we will see what are the advantages. Now we will see what is HDR first. The SDG goal of 4.3. So this editorial Welcome to Shankar's Daily News and Live Mint. In this first article, we will discuss about the ethanol blending program in India and what are the challenges with respect to that. We will also discuss what are the goals fixed. This image of the new Lady Justice statue, which is located at this Library of Supreme, also serving as a Before getting into the details, let me explain the crux. So this program has helped the India sugar industries because this program has helped the excess sugar production to make the ethanol, which is a biofuel. So by deviating the excess sugar production to make the ethanol, it is helping the farmers and it is also helping to stabilize the sugar industries as a whole. So this program has also contributed to the India's energy security, because by blending the ethanol with the gasoline, we are reducing our dependency on the fuel imports. It has also helped us to cut the carbon emissions and support the farmers of crops like maize through the better price discovery. And this ethanol blending program is also a key role in achieving the net zero emission by 2070. Let's see how first. Ethanol is nothing but a biofuel which is obtained from the sugar cane and other cereals. So by fermentation of the sugar cane, we are going to get the biofuel ethanol, and by blending this ethanol with the gasoline such as petrol, we are going to use it as a fuel for the vehicles. So this ethanol is a renewable source and it is a more cleaner fuel compared to the gasoline. By this way, it is going to reduce the air pollution as well. For example, if you see a E10 vehicle, it is nothing but we are going to blend 10% of ethanol with the 90% of gasoline such as petrol. So this is the basics of the ethanol blending. It is nothing but we are going to blend the ethanol with the petrol. So as already said, ethanol is mainly produced from the sugarcane. So let's take a quick view that where are the sugarcane produced majorly in India. So talking about the subtropical region, it is widely produced in the Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Haryana, Punjab belt. While talking about the tropical region, it is majorly produced in the Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra. So this is why Uttar Pradesh, which is the major producer of the sugarcane, is called as the sugar bowl of India. So now we will try to understand what are the basics about the ethanol blending program from the prelims perspective. The main objective of this program is to reduce the reliance on the imported crude oil. As we are going to blend the ethanol with the petrol, we are going to reduce the dependency on the oil import. This is the first objective of this program. Next, we are going to promote the use of renewable energy source. That is, ethanol is a renewable energy source. We are going to promote the usage of this ethanol. And third, we have the objective to support the farmers by using the excess sugarcane. As already said, we are going to divert the excess sugarcane production to produce the ethanol. This is the three main objective of this program. So this program is launched in the year 2003, but after the 2014, it got significant improvement in this program. We have achieved 15% ethanol blending by the last September 2023, and now we have the target of achieving 20% ethanol blending by the year 2025. Please make note of the year. So what will be the source of producing the ethanol? First is the sugarcane. As already said, we are going to ferment the sugarcane juice and molasses to produce the ethanol by the process called as fermentation and distillation. We can also produce ethanol from maize, other damaged grains and surplus grains. So what are the benefits of this ethanol blending program? First is the energy security. By using ethanol as an additive to the gasoline, we are going to reduce the dependency on the crude oil import. So this has saved almost $1 trillion since the 2014. Talking about the environmental impact, ethanol is a more cleaner fuel compared to the petrol. So we are going to reduce the carbon dioxide emission by transforming to the ethanol blending. So in economic impact, we are going to create an alternate market for the excess sugar which is produced by the farmers. So this will benefit the farmers significantly, and it will also stabilize the sugarcane industry. So in what way it is going to support the farmers? The farmers can discover better prices for their crops like maize, and this will create an additional income sources for the farmers. These are the benefits of the ethanol blending program and the ethanol production by the Indian farmers. So now we will see what are the challenges with respect to this program. First is the feedstock availability. So the main source for production of this ethanol is the sugarcane, and this sugarcane is very water intensive crop and it is subjected to many climate risks. So the ethanol which is primarily produced from sugarcane is subjected to several challenges because the availability of these feedstock is uncertain, as these crops are susceptible to the climate variability. Because of this dependence, it can also create supply fluctuations, and it will also create a difficulty to meet the increasing demand of the ethanol. So we have to ensure the food security of the sugarcane to produce the ethanol. Second challenge is the infrastructure and the logistic challenge. So we have a goal to attain 20% ethanol blending by the year 2025. But it seems that we do not have a existing better infrastructure to achieve this goal, because many ethanol plants are located very distant from the oil marketing company. So this is leading to higher transportation cost and logistic challenges. And the third challenge is the technological and the capacity constraints. As already said, government has made significant steps towards this program since the 2014 rapidly, but many plants are not adopting the advanced technologies to improve the yield and efficiency. Added to this, the sugar industry is also facing limitations in terms of the capacity, especially when they have to scale the production to meet the future targets. And lastly, we have a challenge that is the policy and the pricing issues. Usually there is a complexity in the pricing mechanism for the ethanol procurement. The government will decide the price for ethanol which is derived from the sugar based sources, but the other feedstock based ethanol such as the maize are determined by the oil marketing company, and this can lead to the disparity in the prices and profit which is gained through the ethanol production. So these are the 5 important challenges with respect to the ethanol blending program in India. Now we will see what are the main goals of this ethanol blending program. First goal is to achieve the 20% ethanol blending by 2025, which is nothing but they're going to blend 20% of ethanol with the 80% of gasoline. And second, we have a goal to contribute to the net zero emission by the 2070. This can be done by adopting to the sustainable biofuel usage. And lastly, we have a goal to expand the ethanol production capacity in India. So this will help us to reduce the import of oil and also to improve the income of the farmers. So this is the basics of the ethanol blending program which you have to understand. And now let's see a prelims practice question. Which of the following crops besides the sugarcane is used for the ethanol production in India? So the correct answer will be maize. C. So C, maize is the correct answer. With this, let's conclude the discussion on this article, and now let's move on to the next one. Take a look at this news article regarding the marital rape which. And now let's see a prelims practice question. Which of the following crops besides the sugarcane is used for the ethanol production in India?
Organ transplantation and its consequences of India in the Global Hunger Index of the year 2000. Electronic management. So without any much further delay, let's get into the article title. The $500 billion opportunity from the Indian Express talks about the target of India in the 2030 among the electronic management. So without any much further delay, electronic management. The Civilspedia team. This news analysis is for the current affairs for the date 17th of October 2024. Now let us look at the topic for discussion. The article titled SC Verdict Today on Challenge to the Section 6A of Citizenship Act from
about the myth about protein deficiency in India. The second topic is about the Asian countries. The third topic is about the food and fertilizer subsidies and the issues with it. So these are the three shape that determines their function. So if a protein at the crossroads of major sea routes, including South China Sea, also affecting the Asian countries. The prices are fixed by the government and the company. Firstly, the nutrient-based subsidy scheme, which is N. scheme, which is NB Anna Yojana, and below subsidy schemes and fertilizer subsidy schemes. Before looking at the food subsidy scheme, India's current food and fertilizer subsidy regime. The article highlights the key issues related to National Food Security Act and large-scale distribution of free and highly subsidized food to more than 800 million people. So in this context, let us discuss about India's food subsidy schemes and fertilizer subsidy schemes. Before looking at the food subsidy schemes, let us discuss the National Food Security Act of 2013. This act aims to provide highly subsidized food grains to around 2/3 of India's population. So the beneficiaries will receive the rice at 3 rupees per kilogram and they receive the wheat at 2 rupees per kilogram. The coarse grains are also distributed at 1 rupees per kilogram through PDS system, that is public distribution system. Here the public distribution system operates across the country distributing the food grains at subsidized prices. They offer the food grains especially to the vulnerable groups. The schemes like Antodaya Anna Yojana and below poverty line households are identified for the PDS system. Next, about the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. It was launched during COVID-19 pandemic and it provides additional food grains to around 80 crore people under National Food Security Act. Now let us see about the fertilizer subsidy. Firstly, the nutrient-based subsidy scheme, which is NBS scheme. The government provides subsidies to fertilizer manufacturers to make fertilizers like urea, phosphate and potash. And these fertilizers are available at affordable prices to farmers. So the government provides subsidies to the fertilizer manufacturers. The prices are fixed by the government and the companies are compensated for the difference between the fixed price and the market cost. So here under the NBS scheme, the subsidy is given to the fertilizer manufacturing companies and not to the farmers. So the government compensates for the fertilizer companies so that the farmers can get the fertilizer at a fixed rate. The next one is Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samruddhi Kendra. It is launched recently to provide farmers with a one-stop solution for fertilizers. It also includes the soil health management. Urea is heavily subsidized in order to ensure it remains affordable to all farmers. In order to avoid the overuse, the government launched the neem-coated urea. So this neem-coated urea improves the nitrogen use efficiency. Now talking about the food security challenges, there are significant insufficiencies in the food security of India. Diversion of food grains, ghost beneficiaries and incorrect identification of poor. So around 25 to 30% of food subsidies are lost due to these issues. Despite food subsidy schemes, malnutrition and stunting rates remains very high in India. The National Food Security Act current coverage includes 67% of population with outdated poverty estimates. So this leads to both exclusion errors and inclusion errors. Exclusion errors means the eligible peoples are not being covered under the scheme, and inclusion errors means the people not needing the assistance are receiving it. So there is both problem of exclusion errors and inclusion errors under National Food Security Acts. There is also huge dependence on rice and wheat. In terms of food security in India, there is a heavy reliance on cereals in the food basket. So this discourages the diversification towards more nutritious crops. For example, take pulses, coarse grains and vegetables are not properly included in the basket. The rising cost of food subsidies put immense pressure on the fiscal resources of government. In the financial year 2024 to 2025, the food subsidies alone are estimated to cost around 2 lakh crore for the government. So this is diverting the resources from other critical areas. So the food subsidies are a huge economic burden for the central government. Now let us see about the issues in food subsidy. The first one is overburdening of fiscal resources. See, the expenditure of food subsidies has increased heavily, especially with the schemes like Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. This adds to the fiscal deficit and also constrains the spending on development sectors like health, education and infrastructure. There is also leakages and corruption. Studies done by various institutions suggest that significant portion of food subsidy, for example around 30%, does not reach the intended beneficiaries. There is inefficiency in addressing the adequate needs, and there is also corruption in the distribution system. So there are leakages and corruption which are also an issue in food security. The National Food Security Act covers approximately 800 million people. The initial goal of providing the food to the poor is overshadowed by its blanket coverage. So this makes it financially unsustainable in the long run. Many food subsidy schemes are seen as the populist measure which are aimed at gaining electoral support. They are not focusing on the long-term food security. So this undermines the policy reforms regarding the food subsidy schemes. As we have seen earlier, the subsidy system predominantly delivers the cereals and they overlook the need for diversified diet. So these are some of the issues in food subsidy in India. Now let us see some way forward points. There should be a reform of public distribution system and targeting mechanism. The shift towards direct benefit transfer of food subsidies and allowing the beneficiaries to buy food from any source rather than relying on government depots. So this would reduce the leakages and increase the efficiency. The next one is diversification of food basket. Encouraging the production and consumption of nutrient-rich foods like pulses and coarse grains and also the millets through incentives can make the food subsidy system more nutrition sensitive. Next one is phasing out of blanket subsidies. Gradually reducing the scope of blanket subsidies and focusing on only the most vulnerable segment of society. Here the blanket subsidy means the subsidies that are provided universally or very large portion of population. So there should be a specific targeting of those who actually need the subsidy. So phasing out of these blanket subsidies will increase the efficiency of food subsidy in India. Next, about improving the fertilizer use efficiency. So regarding the fertilizer subsidy, we have to promote the balanced fertilizer use by encouraging the alternatives like organic farming and crop rotation. There are also support schemes in this regard like neem coated urea and soil health card scheme. Then about addressing the malnutrition. Integrating the food subsidy schemes with other nutritional initiatives like Poshan Abhiyan can address the broader issues of malnutrition. Then about rationalizing the subsidy structures. We should prioritize cutting down the leakages and implementing structural reforms, and this will prevent the political exploitation of subsidies programs. So adopting a performance-linked subsidies to ensure the effective use of fertilizers and food grains can be a good initiative in this regard. This would reduce the wastage and focus on the long-term agricultural productivity. So this will in turn impact the food security. We should also learn from the international best practices. The global models like Brazil's Fome Zero program, which has successfully combined the food security with the nutrition and agricultural development. It also led to the poverty alleviation. So learning from the global models is also important for addressing the issues in food subsidy in India. With this, let us conclude the discussion. Now we have come to the end of the discussion. If you like the video, October 2024. Displayed here are the list of topics that we are going to discuss today.
The article, let's see the important announcement of Nobel lesson, which is about Nobel Prizes. This article is taken from Indian Express. Third article is average growth of Third article is average growth of disaster temperature, ocean acidity enhanced of discussion is livestock and fisheries average growth. In the light of this mains question, let's discuss this topic. Discuss the role of livestock in socio-economic development. An announcement from Shankar is about AI generated medical images. This article, without any delay, let's get into articles. The first topic of discussion is 19th East Asia Summit. The article discusses about Prime Minister of India.
Displayed here are the list of topics that we are going to discuss today. The first topic is about Nobel Prize in Chemistry for 2024. Let us discuss what are the contributions that has achieved this prize. The second article is about the government buying nuclear submarines, MQ-9B aircraft and Predator drones. Let us decades. So according to Living Planet report, which is released by World Wildlife Fund, the global wildlife population have decreased by 73%. So this decline is primarily driven by habitat loss and land degradation and the impact of climate change, and also due to invasive species. So there is a 73% decline in global wildlife population in the last 5 decades. So this is what the report by World Wildlife Fund is talking about. Let us discuss about this report and its concerns for India. First, let us see some basics about World Wildlife Fund for Nature, that is WWF. It is one of the leading global conservation organization and it is founded in 1961. It is headquartered in Gland in Switzerland. WWF mission is to conserve nature and to address the growing threats to global ecosystem. It operates in more than 100 countries and it adopts a collaborative approach. It also works with local communities and global stakeholders to protect the wildlife and ecosystems. So this is about the World Wildlife Fund for Nature. WWF has released a report called Living Planet Report. This report is released by WWF for every 2 years. The Living Planet report uses an index called Living Planet Index, the LPI. This index tracks the population trends of over 5,000 species. It includes vertebrates, amphibians, mammals, birds, fishes, reptiles, etc. So this index provides a critical measure of health of our planet biodiversity. The Living Planet report uses this index, that is Living Planet Index. And this Living Planet Index is not created by WWF. This is important thing to note here. This Living Planet Index is created by Institute of Zoology. This Institute of Zoology is present at Zoological Society of London. So the Living Planet report is created by WWF and the Living Planet Index is produced by Institute of Zoology in Zoological Society of London. Now what are the key findings of this Living Planet report? Let us see them. The report emphasizes over last 50 years there is a drastic decline in global wildlife population. As we have seen earlier, there is 73% decline in population of global wildlife. The most decline is seen in the freshwater species. There is 85% of population decline in freshwater species. This is followed by terrestrial species. There is 69% of decline in terrestrial species. And if you take the marine species, there is 56% of decline. So the primary drivers of these losses are habitat destruction, climate change, and also invasive species. So this is what we have seen in the newspaper article. Another thing to note that India's vulture population has also seen an alarming decline, especially the 3 vulture species, white-trumped vulture, Indian vulture, slender-billed vulture. So these 3 vulture population are now critically endangered. So this is also mentioned in the Living Planet report. So this drastic decline of vulture population poses severe ecological threat. The major reason for decline in vulture population is a diclofenac, which is a drug which is used in cattle treatment. When the vulture feed on those cattle, this drug is transmitted into the vulture bodies and it is a major threat for vulture population. Now what are the concerns regarding the decline in vulture population? With the few vultures to consume the dead animals, the carcasses remain in the environment, which leads to sanitation issues. There is also increase in other scavengers. As vulture disappear, other scavengers like feral dogs fill the gap. So this will increase the likelihood of disease transmission. Then there is also potential disease outbreak. The reduced number of vultures and the rising scavenger population can lead to disease outbreaks in both animal and human population. So these are the important concerns or ecological threats regarding the declining population of vultures. Now what are the conservation efforts? In order to mitigate this decline of vulture population, the conservation efforts like banning the use of diclofenac, which is a drug used to treat the cattle, and this drug is highly toxic to vultures. So protecting and restoring vulture population will help in maintaining the balance of ecosystem. This is because vultures play a critical role in keeping the environment clean and disease free by disposing the remains of dead animals. So this is about the importance of vulture. With this, let us discuss an MCQ related to this topic. Look at the question. This is a previous year question. Vultures, which are used to be very common in Indian countryside some years ago, are rarely seen nowadays. This is attributed to a drug used by cattle owners for treating their diseased cattle. So this is what we have seen in the discussion. The drug is called diclofenac, and this drug is very toxic to vultures, and it is a main reason for declining vulture population. So the answer is option B. With this, let us conclude the discussion and move to the next news article. Now look at this article. It is about the Nobel Prize for Chemistry 2024. It is awarded to David Fitz in agriculture. Now about environmental science. But if you take proteins, all of them are not enzymes. So enzyme is
on 19th October 2024. So you can click the link provided in the description to register for the test series and check your preparedness for your preliminary examination. So with this note, let us look at the articles that we are going to discuss today. In this first article, we'll be seeing about Nobel Prize winner for physics, and in the second article, we'll be seeing about USCIRF report from the mains perspective. So without any delay, let us get into the first news article discussion. Now look at this news article. The news is that John Hopfield and Geoffrey Hinton both have been awarded with Nobel Prize in Physics for 2024. They have been awarded this prize because of their contribution to artificial intelligence and machine. This first article we'll be seeing about. In this first article, let us get into the first news article discussion. In Constitution to safeguard religious freedom. See Article 20. Hello aspirants, I welcome you all to daily newspaper analysis of Shankar IAS Academy. Today's date is 9th of October 2024. Now before getting into the newspaper analysis, I have an important announcement for you. The pre-storming UPSC Prelims Test Series 2025 7 rocket, the re-entry of the rocket body of this particular rocket, and in the third article we'll be seeing about SEBI from the prelims perspective. So without any
The pre-storming UPSC and next article titled Marina Mayhem talks about the death caused during the Indian Air Force show which was held recently in text first. The center's affidavit defends the marital rape. The center's affidavit the Hindu. So without any much further delay, wild asses in Gujarat up by 26% by the government, discusses about the importance of Indian wild ass in Gujarat and their role in environment and biodiversity. And this article is from the newspaper The Hindu. The next article titled Nobel for microRNA discovery promising for a new therapeutic, says Indian scientist about the tribal community called the Jenu Kurubas of Karnataka. Now without any much further delay, let's get into the articles. Wildlife Award for his work, wildlife conservation and tribal welfare. He played a key role in resettling over 300 tribal families from Nagarhole and advocates for integrating social development with conservation. So, in light of this news, let us look into the tribe Jenu Kuruba. The Jenu Kuruba tribe is a prominent indigenous group in Karnataka, mainly residing in the forest of the Western Ghats and other regions such as Nagarhole forest. Their name Jenu means honey, reflecting their traditional occupation as honey gatherers. Over the time, they have also engaged in activities like farming and working as laborers in forest area. Now looking into their population, as of 2011 census, which is the recent census report, the Jenu Kuruba's tribe population is around 36,000 in Karnataka, though exact figures may vary due to changes in the census and development programs. Now looking into their occupation, historically, Jenu Kiribas are forest dwellers known for collecting honey and forest products. But with time, their occupation have diversified into agriculture, daily wage laborer, and working in wildlife conservation areas, especially in protected reserves like the Nagarhole. Now let us move on to the government schemes for their upliftment. The Jenu Kurubas fall under the category of scheduled tribes in Karnataka. Several government schemes focus on their welfare and development. First is the Forest Rights Act of 2006. Here, it recognizes the traditional forest rights of the forest dwelling communities like the Jenu Kurubas to access and manage forest resources. Next scheme is the Pradhan Mantri Van Dhan Yojana. Here, this initiative focuses on empowering the tribal communities like the Jenu Kurubas through sustainable use of forest resources like non-timber forest products, that is the NTFPs, and value addition of these sources. And next scheme is the tribal subplan. Here there is allocation of funds specially for the tribal welfare, including infrastructure, education, healthcare and economic development. Now let us move on to the next few government schemes. Next is the Iklavya Model Residential Schools, where there is providing of quality education to tribal children, ensuring improved literacy rates among the Jenu Kuruba tribe. Next is the development of particularly vulnerable tribal groups, that is the PVTGs. Here, Jenu Kurubas are recognized as PVTGs, and this scheme ensures special attention to their healthcare, education and livelihood through targeted programs. And finally is the National Scheduled Tribes Finance and Development Corporation. Here, it provides financial assistance for income generating activities like forest-based activities and entrepreneurship for STs, including Jenu Kurubas. Now, after knowing about Jenu Kurubas, now let us move on to the MCQ related to this article. Which of the following criteria is used by the Government of India to identify a tribal group as a particularly vulnerable tribal group? The options are pre-agricultural level of technology, very high population density, economic backwardness, and 4 low levels of literacy. Select the correct answer using the code given. Option A 1, 3 and 4, option B 1, 2 and 4, option C 2 and 4, and option D 1, 2, 3, 4. Here the right answer is option A, which is the criteria used by the Government of India to identify a tribal group as PVTGs is option A pre-agricultural level of technology, option B economic backwardness, and option 4 levels of literacy. Now moving on to the next news. This news article discusses the increase in the population of the Indian wild ass, an endangered species in Gujarat, India. The population has risen by 26.14% over the last 4 years as reported in the 10th wild ass population estimation, that is WAVE 2024, conducted by the Gujarat government. The current population stands almost approximately to 7,000 compared to 6,000 in the previous year in 2020. So in light of this article, let us know about the Indian wild ass. Looking into the basics, the Indian wild ass or Equus heminus khur, also known as Indian onagar, that is in the language of Gujarat, or khur or gund khur, that is a subspecies of the Asiatic wild ass. The Asiatic wild ass is 2 types. One is Indian wild ass and next is the Tibetan wild ass. Here, it is primarily found in the Ran of Kutch, which is in the region of Gujarat, India. And apart from India, it is also found in southern Pakistan and southern eastern Iran and Afghanistan also. This animal is distinctive due to its speed and endurance, and it is well adaptive to harsh or arid environment of the region. Now moving into its size and appearance, the Indian wild ass is about 2 meters in length and it stands approximately to 1.5 meters tall. It has a sandy or light brown coat which helps it blend into its desert environment, and a wide belly and a face. Here it speeds up to 70 km per hour, where it is known for being swift, and it is one of the fastest animal. Now looking into the habitat, it inhabits the Little Ran of Kutch and the surrounding areas including the parts of Rajasthan, but its primarily range is now restricted to Gujarat. It prefers flat, open grassland and semi-desert areas. And this was asked as a 2011 prelims question, where the question talks about its habitat. A sandy saline area is the natural habitat of an Indian animal species. The animal has no predators in that area, but its existence is threatened due to the destruction of its habitat. Which one of the following could be that animal? And the answer was Indian wild ass. So now moving on to its conservation status. The Indian wild ass is classified as endangered by the International Union of Conservation of Nature, that is the IUCN. The population had severely declined due to habitat loss. The population had severely declined due to habitat loss, poaching, and competition with livestock for grazing land. However, as noted in the recent article, recent conservation efforts, especially by the Gujarat government, have led to significant increase in their population. And looking into the conservation measures, they are protected under the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972 under the Schedule 1. The Indian wild ass receives the highest level of protection under this law. And next is the Indian Wild Ass Sanctuary in Gujarat was established to protect this species and its habitat, covering nearly up to 5,000 square kilometers. Now moving on to its significance. The Indian wild ass is a symbol of resilience in the face of adverse environmental conditions. Here, it plays an important role in maintaining the ecological balance of its habitat by helping control vegetation and acting as a prey for predators like wolves. Now, knowing about the wild ass, let us move on to the MCQ question related to it. Consider the following fauna and their IUCN status. Great Indian bustard, critically endangered. Indian wild asses, endangered. Nilgiri thar, critically endangered. Which of the above are correctly matched? Option A, 1 and 2. Option B, 2 and 3. Option C, 1 and 3. And option D, 1, 2 and 3. The correct option is option A, 1 and 2. The Great Indian bustard are critically